Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you very warmly to this second webinar in a series of webinars that the World Bioenergy Association is organizing on the use of agricultural residues as sources of energy. My name is Christian Rakosch. I am the chairman of WBA, and I will be facilitating this meeting. To start with, let me just tell you this meeting, this webinar is going to be recorded, and also all the presentations you will be seeing, they will be available as of tomorrow on the WBA website, and we will send you an email with the links to the presentations as well as to the recording of this webinar. Let me just say a few words about WBA, World Bioenergy Association. Our association has the mission to promote the sustainable use of bioenergy at a global scale. And the way we're doing this is by creating a network of many people, knowledgeable, interested, engaged in bioenergy across the entire globe. We are running this network, and we are also engaging in multilateral political events such as the large conferences of different organizations, conferences of the parties of the United Nations on climate change, and other events where we try to highlight the role of bioenergy in a sustainable energy future. Today, we are organizing this webinar together with a project, an EU-funded project, the project AgroBioHeat. And I would like to welcome Manolis Karamainis, who has been suggesting this cooperation. He is managing this project. Manolis, please give us a short overview on what your project is about and why we are doing this webinar together.
Thank you, Christian, for the introduction, and I would like also to welcome all the attendants to this webinar. My name is Manolis Karamainis. I'm a research associate at Center for Research and Technology in LAS, and I'm the coordinator of the AgroBioHeat project. So I would like to say a very few things about, to introduce the project. Oh, okay, 1 minute. Can you see the slides?
We cannot see the presentation mode, but we can still see the slides.
Yeah, for some reason the presentation mode does not work now, while it worked 5 minutes ago. But okay. AgroBioHeat, it's a project funded by Horizon 2020, the European Union's instrument for research and innovation. And the main goal is to provide support to develop the use of agrobiomass heating in rural Europe. The idea behind the project is that we have a huge agrobiomass potential all over Europe from different resources. And on the other hand, we have a heating sector which is still largely fossil fuel based. So the idea is to combine the biomass resource and decarbonize the heating sector on the other hand. The project is implemented mostly in 6 EU countries, which you can see with the light green color on the map. So Spain, France, Croatia, Romania, Greece, and Ukraine. In every country, we have what we call a national multiplier, a biomass association, a bioenergy association, or other, let's say, actors that are active in the agricultural or renewable energy sector. We have on board as well the the Bioenergy Europe, the European Biomass Association, 3 technical partners, CIRS and BIOS, who are supporting on specific activities. And we have on board as well Food and Bio Cluster Denmark, White Research, a social science expertise from Belgium, and an existing, let's say, facility operator in France, Agronergy, which has several heating plants around the country and uses the various biomass sources, including agrobiomass, as a fuel. What we do in this project, very briefly, our activities are structured on different levels. So on the one hand, we work with local actors, regional actors, and we engage them and we try to support and promote new agrobiomass heating initiatives from the ground up. We identify and promote existing success cases of agrobiomass heating. We have some technical activities, which are essentially combustion tests in lab scale or in operating facilities. And the idea is to prove that emissions from agrobiomass combustion can be equivalent to those of woody biomass and within the EU limits. We recommend specific policy interventions on a national or EU level, and we perform, of course, advocacy actions, while we also analyze public perception. We have finished recently a large EU survey, and now we are in the process of doing local surveys to see how people feel towards biomass heating. We work towards enhanced sector visibility and capacity building. For example, we have produced some guidelines you can hear more about later, or the Agrobiomass Observatory. We are working towards matchmaking events, trainings, and like today, we are working with different actors to communicate and disseminate about the sector. And the last thing I would like to say before I pass the floor to speakers is that some of you might have seen it already. On the 10th and 11th of February, the project is organizing a virtual matchmaking event entitled Bringing Value to Agrobiomass. And there you have the possibility to register on the platform, indicate your interests or your capacity, what you can offer, and request meetings with other participants that are participating in agrobiomass value chains. And here we are not only focusing on heating applications, but any kind, from energy to materials to chemicals, anything you can make out of agrobiomass. We already have about 90 participants on board, some very relevant profiles. So I encourage you to visit the website, set up your profile, and start requesting meetings. So nothing more from my side for now. Thanks again, and I think we can move ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Manolis. So a great project in trying to really address the issue from many different angles, actually. And I wish you a great success to that project, and maybe we can reiterate at a later point in time how this project is proceeding and what we can learn at the global level from this project. So thank you very much. And
thanks,
an invitation, I would like to emphasize the invitation to participate in this matchmaking event that you're organizing, because that is actually what we want to do. We want to bring people together, to work together, to learn from each other in developing bioenergy from agricultural residues. So before we start into the program, I would like to just share with you that we were really excited to have 300 persons signing up for this webinar. So at the moment we are 100 still in the room, but these 300 persons were coming from actually from 67 different countries. So it is really a topic that is of global interest. We have participants from every continent, from North America, South America, from Asia, from Australia, from Europe, and from Africa. I'm very excited about that. Welcome to all of you from wherever you are. Sorry that some of you have to get up very early. Some of you have to stay in very late. Because yeah, it's just impossible to make the right timing for everybody. So now let's continue with the program. We have selected 5 countries that have particular experience or very significant resources in biomass from agricultural residues, and that are engaging in utilizing these residues as case examples. And these 5 countries are Spain, Denmark, India, Brazil, and Ukraine. So also countries from different geographies with different opportunities. And we will use these countries as examples on how relevant bioenergy from agricultural residues is and how it can be developed. Without further ado, I'm now passing on the word to Pablo Rodero. Pablo is working in the Spanish Bioenergy Association, AVIBIOM, and he is, by the way, also the president of the European Pellet Council. So, Pablo, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Christian. Thank you, the World Bioenergy Association, for letting us this opportunity to present make a presentation from the Spain and also from the project, because we are also participating in the project and we are leading we are leading the dissemination. So this is a very good opportunity for us, as you say, of sharing the results of the projects. Okay, so I'm going to try to be very quick because we don't have so much time. And first, I like to remark that for Spain, the agrobiomass is a critical question. Why? Because we have a huge potential. We will see later quantities. It is renewable, and we have in many large quantities that they are not being used now. Also, because in most of the cases, most of the potential is coming from the interior parts of Spain. There are many parts in Spain, not Madrid, not Barcelona, not the coast, that they have the same density, population density as Laponia, for example. So what's happening? All the people from the countryside, they are moving to the cities or to the coast, the main cities. And this is bioenergy and agrobiomass is an opportunity to develop these areas and making stable jobs, because yes, the potential is there. The potential is in these areas precisely. And also because it's possible with the new technologies to use this agrobiomass with low emission and high efficiency. No? We have a large potential, as I was telling. This is the potential and the available, but it's technical availability, meaning that we are removing from the left column the slope, the things that we cannot go because it's too much difficult or too costly. So this available on the right column, you have a total of 12 million of available of agricultural residues, meaning that is a lot. That doesn't mean that it's not all used. We are using quite for electric purposes, but the main purpose of this project and what we are trying also to develop is the use of bioenergy, of agrobiomass in thermal uses. No, we are not going through all the data, but we can conclude that there is a big potential about all in vineyards, olive tree prunings, that we have almost 90% if it is without use. Some parts are being used now in electrical, but it's not really 90% of the product is being burned or chopped and included in the terrain. No? So we have a very big potential remaining. Also, as we have a lot of cereal, so we can extract and use the straw. We are the first world producer of olive oil, so there is a big quantity of olive cake, olive stones, and olive tree prunings. We are the third world wine producer, so we have a lot of residues of vineyard, and also we have plenty of citrus, of nuts. We have the cells, and we have also the renewals of these cultivations. So how is the status in agrobiomass in Spain? We can split into two different kind of biomasses. We can split into byproducts, agroindustrial byproducts. So the ones coming from the oil mainly, also from the dried fruits. And the logistic is easier, and we have been using them already for 20 years. And there is a quite developed market about all in olive stones or olive cake. But what's the bad? The bad is that not always is being used in the best conditions, or the technology is very old. So the emissions, they are not the best. So we are trying to promote the change in the technology, so we can use it in proper condition. And there is another kind of mainly the residues that are coming from the field, so straw or the corn cane or the pruning, so that olive trees or vineyards, and there are very few samples. We can consider them heroic, and yes, about all in the small markets, they are not very well established. There is not logistics, and the only thing working a little is in electric generation, that they are starting to use this kind of biomasses. And about energy crops, that well, there is only, as far as we know in the association, there is only few surfaces, mainly for demonstration purposes. Although yesterday I learned that there are one company starting to make some surface available for energy crops, no? But it's not even 1,000 hectares. We put many data of the uses, producers, or examples of agrobiomass in the Observatory of Agrobiology. So if you enter in this link, you can see many examples. There are about 800 points, mainly installation using agrobiomass, and mainly using olive stones and things that are coming from agro-industrial, that the logistic is easier, and we have been using it for 20 years, as I was mentioning. How is going to be developed this market? We have a very optimistic or very high objective for 2030, coming from Europe, but also from the national plans. And we made the exercise of calculating what will be the demand in 2030. And of course, we will have an increase in the forest biomass. And the older he is mentioning conventional, so we have firewood. We have other biomasses that we can use it in a very modern way, no? Like pellets or olive stone or wood chips. So this kind of biomasses, the new uses, technified, like pellet or wood chips, they are gonna increase quite a lot to 2030. But there will be an increase from zero from many of these agrobiomass, because we need it in the mix to achieve the objective of 2030. If not, it will be difficult to achieve these objectives. And it's a very good opportunity if we look into the prices. We have the electricity and gas and fossil fuels. We have even cheaper the wood pellets and wood chips and olive stones. And agrobiomass, the one I'm talking about of vineyard prunings, olive tree prunings, is even cheaper. No, if we make the comparison in centimes of euros, we see that is really cheap. So we have the potential. We have it's affordable, and it's very good for the country. I guess in all the countries is the same, but the potential is just in the places where we need some rural development, and what we need is to make it very well, no, technically, without emissions, with the proper boilers and with the proper technology. And this is all from my side. We have, this is the same, the prices that we see before in the previous slide, but okay, with more details, technical details, with the net calorific value that is being calculated. Thank you for the possibility to make this presentation. Thank you, Christian.
Thank you very much, Pablo. That was very interesting. I forgot to mention that all participants that have questions, please publish your questions in the chat, and I will be happy to forward these questions then to the speakers. So as I didn't mention that nobody has yet come up with questions, but please feel free to ask questions. Also, of course, to the presentation of Pablo, and we can address that after the next speaker. I do have one question, Pablo. You have been using different units, so I wasn't sure whether I got the point. You were talking about the potential of 12 million tons of biomass that could be possibly used. Can you say what is the amount that is being used now in tons, and what do you believe, how many tons of these 12 million tons could be used in 2030?
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, I didn't have so much time, so I didn't include the, but more or less what we are using, including fire wood, that is going to decrease a little the traditional use of wood log, not the modern wood log, but more or less we are using like 8 million tons of biomass in Spain, including all the uses. And we expect an increase of 3 million, more or less, until 2030.
So you will almost reach the technical potential by 2030?
Yes.
Wow, impressive.
But
Very
no,
nice.
no, okay, yes, actually, yes. The technical availability, yes.
Okay,
But
great.
this is not including, for example, energy crops, which is important remark.
Okay, but still, I mean, this is an excellent example. You are trying to achieve the full potential of agrobiomass in Spain within the next 10 years. We have been preparing a couple of questions also for you to answer for our participants, because we want you to be involved, not just only to hear, but we want also to hear from you. And I would like to ask Bharadwaj now to publish the first two polls that we have been preparing to collect your ideas on the use of agrobiomass. So please, Bharadwaj, proceed. Here is the first poll. Which types of conversion technologies have the greatest promise for the use of agro residues in your country? Is it direct combustion without prior treatment? Is it by converting or by densifying biomass to become pellets or briquettes? Do you think that will be important? By carbonization or torrefication? By large-scale conversion to liquid biofuels through enzymatic hydrolysis, for example, by thermal gasification, by anaerobic gasification. Please just mention the two or three things that you, two or three conversion technology you think are most important in your individual context. Just click and then submit. Okay, have you all submitted your answers? Bharadwaj, can you publish the results? Okay. Direct combustion without prior treatment by converting it to pellets or briquettes has been the most frequent answer. So that's interesting. Carbonization, torrefication is not considered to be very promising for agricultural residues. Liquid biofuels, thermal gasification, 10%. Anaerobic gasification, the third after conversion to pellets and direct combustion, anaerobic gasification. That's interesting. Thank you very much. And we will look for the next poll. Which types of end use do you see as most promising? Small scale use for heating is in the focus of the project we just heard about. Small scale use for cooking is a possibility, especially in countries where A lot of charcoal is used in Africa. 1 billion people are using charcoal and wood directly, and they could convert to pellets from agricultural residues, for example. That will be the topic of another webinar that we are going to prepare. Small-scale use for electricity generation or large-scale use for electricity generation. Finally, use for commercial heat demands, for bigger heat users, or for district heating. Please type which types of end users you see as most promising. Okay, let's see what are the results, Bharadwaj. Small scale use for electricity generation, that's interesting. Followed by district heating, small scale use for heating. And then the third was large scale use for electricity generation. So there is a great interest in electricity generation and decentralized electricity generation with agricultural residues. That's an interesting result. Thank you very much for that. And we now head on with our next speaker. Our next speaker is Gunnar Halt Mikkelsen from Denmark. And Denmark is well known as a country that has extensive experiences in using straw as energy for energy purposes. Gunnar is coming from the Food and Bio Cluster in Denmark. Gunnar, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Christian. And hello, everybody. I just had to start. Oh, I had to get. Yes, now we're ready. My name is Gunnar Mikkelsen, and I have Louise at my side. I don't know, Louise is helping also with the English language. But in Denmark, we focus on straw, and I will tell you about the Danish production and how we are doing it. So my agenda will be agriculture in Denmark, some key figures, the structure in Denmark, how we produce in Denmark, straw production, a discussion about resource or waste, a little about the Danish energy policy, and then a discussion we have had in Denmark for the last, I think, up to 50 years is burning of straw and carbon in soil. And then we have our guide, Straw to Energy, which have been updated. But we start with the agriculture in Denmark. Two points is in focus when you are a farmer in Denmark. All the Danish farming is based on research and documentation. And you can see to the right, a book. Every year, 60,000 plots is spread all over Denmark, where new varieties, new pesticides, strategies for soil tillage, mechanical weed control, and so on. Also, all the new varieties in cereals will be tested for their straw production. So if you're a Danish farmer, you can choose new varieties based on how much straw they produce. And if you don't want to have troubles with straw, you can choose cereals varieties with not so much straw production. So this book is made every year, and 1st of January you can choose for the new growing season. You can choose the best strategy to make farming. Another point in Denmark is that we drink groundwater. it means that every farmer in his strategy for using nutrient had to be aware of that he must not lose nutrient to the groundwater. So there's a big focus for all Danish farmers to use animal manure, industrial fertilizer in a way so you don't lose nutrients to groundwater. And if we look at the structure in Denmark, we are the land in Europe, or I think in the whole world, where most of the land is dominated by agriculture. 62% of the area is agricultural land. And you can see it on the right side, the blue figure in the bottom. But Holland is 50% is covered by agricultural area. The cereal production is the dominating crop in Denmark. 55% of the agricultural land is cereals. So, and therefore we have this big straw production. And therefore focus in Denmark for many years have been the cereals, but also the straw. Can we use it in a more intelligent way? Straw production is in Denmark is around 6 million tons of straw per year. And for the last about 10 years, we have a figure that 50% is used for bedding and energy production, and 50% is mulched into the soil. So from this figure, you can see that there's still a potential of 50% of this straw production, which you can use for energy. But here we in Denmark have the discussion about carbon in soil. I'll come back to this discussion. And then Denmark, together with Austria, have a high percent of organic production. And also here straw is in focus, because straw production in the organic production can be used for biogas production. And then you can create an organic fertilizer from the organic straw from this production. But two figures here, you can see the blue one, you can see how much agricultural land there is in different countries. And the other one, you can see production of renewable energy. And you can see straw is the gray bar in the bottom. So there's a raising. The use of straw is still raising a little. Next slide. So if we look at the biomass in Denmark for burning, we use straw, as I said to you before, the 5 to 7 million tons, where 50% can be used or are used for energy production. Then we have willow trees, a little area on agricultural land, about 3,000 hectares, with a production per year around the same as a winter wheat field in Denmark, but a yield from 5 to 15 tons dry matter per hectare is the amount in Denmark. We also have a little area with poplar. There had been a big discussion in Denmark how to use both willow trees and poplar for energy production. They are not, the use is very difficult, and also because straw has dominated the whole picture of biomass in Denmark. if we look at the energy goal in Denmark, there have been focus in Denmark on the to be independent of coal, oil, and gas in 2050. Already in 2012, there have been focus on wind and sun. In Denmark, as you can see the picture in the middle, the focus is on wind, and wind cover about 20% of the Danish renewable energy production. And also you can see the energy supply switch to wind, sun, biomass, and geothermal energy. I don't think geothermal energy is covered very much. You can't see it in the statistic, but it still says from the government. In 2018, there was more focus on being part of the EU goals for energy or energy production. Also more focus on biomass to supplement, to supply wind and sun. If we take this discussion about carbon in agricultural soils in Denmark, which have been in focus for the politicians, we have a lot of research plots in Denmark concerning soil, carbon in soil. And there's 3 research stations in the world where for more than, I think it's about 130 years ago, plots were made, and the same treatment has been done all 130 years. And as you can see, the upper figure, there's plots with animal manure in a crop rotation. If we use all straw produced in the crop rotation in the stable and using the animal manure, you can still see, even if you put more animal manure in you produced, you can see that the carbon content in soil slightly falls, whatever you do. You can also see, if we are talking about mineral fertilizer, if you take all the straw and transport it and use mineral fertilizer, and you have no animals, there's also a slightly fall of carbon in soil. So here we have a figure concerning a crop rotation where there not every year is produced cereals, but you use all the straw to incorporate when you use animal manure. If we go to the next slide, we have also a lot of research on single crops. And if we have a monoculture of winter wheat, and every year incorporate the year production of straw, you can see after this research have run for about 20 years. After 20 years, you can see a slightly increase in carbon in soil. But monoculture crops is not dominating in Denmark. So in conclusion, we can say, if you have a normal farmland practice with a crop rotation, carbon in soil falls. But if you have a monoculture and incorporate all the straw, you can have a slight increase of carbon. And these 2 figures is very much used in the Danish discussion of how to use straw in future. Then at last we have our straw to energy guide, which have been updated, and you can take it, everybody, with this link. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Gunnar. That was very interesting. Also very interesting to see that putting straw into the soil does not necessarily lead to so much improvement. And I guess your conclusion is that we could in fact use more straw as a source of energy instead of just burning it in the ground. Is that what you meant to say?
Yeah, because all the research shows that you can freely use more of the straw to energy production if you in your crop rotation uses catch crop and are aware of having a grassland. So you can easily make farming strategies so you can compensate for the mulching of straw into the soil.
That means that you can really use the straw and by improved other farming techniques, make up for the loss of carbon, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Excellent. Well, that's very good news because straw is on a global scale, extremely widely available material. It's probably the most widely available agricultural byproduct. And there are literally billions of tons of straw available that are currently either burned or just put to the soil, but in very few cases being actively used as source of energy. So thank you very much for this, Gunnar. And this leads us to the next poll. May I ask you to publish the next poll? Bharadwaj, thank you. How important do you think energy from agricultural residues or dedicated energy crops could be by 2050 in your country? So pick only one. Will it be the largest single source of renewable energy or the most important source for heat? Will it be the most important source for electricity or for transport fuels? Or will the sector be probably still neglected for various reasons? What is your belief? So just pick one choice. Bharadwaj, when you publish the results, can you also mention briefly how many people participated in the poll? Because there were questions about the number of participants in the poll.
Sure, Christian. We have about close to 80 to 90 participants for the poll.
Thank you. Great. And we have about 116 participants now in the meeting, which is a very nice outcome. So that is interesting. 30% of the participants believe that agricultural residues will become the most important source for heat, but very few believe that it will be the most important source of electricity. It doesn't mean it couldn't be one important source for electricity. But in fact, the majority of people believe that heat applications will probably be the most relevant application for agricultural residues. That's a very interesting result, followed by transport fuels. But also quite a number of people are believing that it is possible that agricultural residues will continue to be neglected. So that's a pessimistic view. Let's hope those of you that are more pessimistic are not the realists. But in fact, we will be seeing it becoming more and more used in the future. So thank you for this survey. Thank you for participating. And that leads us to the next speaker, and that is Gaurav Kedia from the Indian Biogas Association. He will tell us how agricultural residues are being used for biogas production in India. The floor is yours, Gaurav.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Let me just start the presentation. So hope you can see my slides. Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. So
just
great. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon from India. So the topic for today's presentation is agriculture residues. So I try to make it simple in a manner so that we start from the basic, and I try to give you the overview, and I try to talk about a couple of specific residues and see what are the potential. And then I will be talking about the existing policies in India. And, as such, India is going through a very interesting phase when you talk about the bioenergy. Around 2.5 years back, the national bioenergy policy has already been, set into place, where government is talking about something like 5% blending in biodiesel, 20% blending in bioethanol, biogas or bio-CNG blending is still the discussion is going on, but I think we'll be able to achieve something like 5% in the whole energy mix, which itself is a big thing. Primarily, I will be talking more about biogas, but it's equally valid for other biomass as such or bioenergy verticals. Yeah? So let me start my journey. But before I, really formally go into it, normally from Indian perspective, we bring it into 3 different verticals. One is the technical vertical, second is the financial, and third is the social vertical, and policy, etc., come under social vertical. Because what we really feel, and I was just looking at the pessimistic view, what you are talking about, the social engineering in a positive manner is very important because the potential is there. And I think one of the intention of everyone sitting here is to really understand how to harness that potential. And for that, the social part is also very important, especially when you talk about the whole supply chain, when you talk about the whole technical feasibility and the financial feasibility. So to really make it happen on ground is a completely different story. And I will be talking more from that perspective to really make it happen, the pros and cons. So let's start the journey. So basically, just in case someone wants to really understand the mass balance and the energy balance. So what I personally see the biomass, ultimately you talk about any biomass, it needs energy, which is primarily coming from the sun, and it needs nutrient, which basically is coming from its root, and it is being extracted from the nearby area in whatsoever form we can talk about. That's a different subject. So biomass, basically we all can visualize as a battery. Yeah? So basically it is the storage, energy storage, and how to really take care of that energy storage, how to really transform it into different form is a different question. But nevertheless, once you have that biomass, so let's say I make a simple example of a plant where cow can eat that, and the manure can go to the biogas plant, or the milk will go to the milk processing unit, and the spent wash can go to the biogas plant, or the biomass directly, the organic biomass can directly go to the biogas plant, and what we get is basically the energy. And this energy can be in fact transformed into heat, electricity. Nowadays in India, government is very, very bullish about bio-CNG. So basically you have biogas, which has got, let's say, 55% methane and raised CO2. I'm ignoring all other component to make it simple. And you upgrade the biogas, and there is already a standard set in India, BIS standard, Bureau of Indian Standards, set in India, which talks about more than 90% methane. And then, in fact, you can just utilize it in vehicle. I mean, if you really do the calculation as per the BIS standard, the methane content will come out to be more than 95%. But nevertheless, so what I really wanted to emphasize over here, if you really see the whole mass balance. So basically, very often you hear the word circular economy, and I live in Delhi, and still many times I feel bad that I'm not really being a part of the circular economy. I'm being a part of linear economy. If I really think about my food waste, I'm just throwing it out and it's landing in landfill, which is not good. Fortunately, now we are actually, we have got the enforcement, and through that we have got the decentralized bio-waste management plant, especially from the biogas perspective as well. But nevertheless, the whole intention over here is to give you the view that let's be a part of the nature, not apart from the nature. And bioenergy plays a very, very crucial role. And one of the good thing about bioenergy, what I personally like, is that apart from the energy, there is always something else associated with it. When I talk about biogas, it's, let's say, fertilizer. When I talk about diesel, let's say it's glycerin. We can talk about biochar. We can talk about a number of other things. But nevertheless, that's the beauty of bioenergy, that it's not just the energy, it's much more than that, including, how do you say, including the whole cleanliness thing. There are many benefits. I'm very sure all of you know about it. I'm not going in detail, but what I really want to emphasize is the social benefit, because very often we talk about, whether or not bioenergy is required or not required, but, bio waste, or whether it is in the form of agricultural residue or in the form of any other like municipal solid waste, the organic part, you have to really treat it. And this is where we see a big opportunities. When we do the SWOT analysis, strength and weaknesses are the internal thing, and opportunity and threat are the external thing. And we see this as a big opportunity for all the technocrats, all the entrepreneurs to really encash it. Of course, n number of feedstock we can talk. Primarily we just bring it down in 5 different verticals. As far as the organic feedstock is concerned, I'm not considering woody biomass in this one, especially this is from how do you say, biogas perspective. One other thing I wanted to emphasize was that we can talk about animal byproduct, vegetable byproduct, industrial and commercial waste, or bio waste from household. But when you talk something like energy crop in India, and we never go into food versus fuel debate, because for sure we want to support the food thing. For the fuel, we are blessed with a lot of agricultural residues, and if we can really transform them in a proper form, we have got more than enough possibilities as far as the energy need in India is concerned. So we can talk about Napier grass, we can talk about cotton stalk, but we don't even think about utilizing the whole maize plant as an energy crop to convert it into biogas, something like this. This data, just to give you some feel about it. So basically, we can talk about paddy, we can talk about wheat, and we can talk about a number of other cereal crops. So basically, what we did, we try to understand the residue level in India from agricultural side, and what we realized that most of other how do you say, crop residues are being used in some or other form, whether it is in the form of animal fodder, whether it is in form of how do you say, fibrous material, or a number of other things. So what we really realize that if I really talk about one particular crop where I would like to concentrate, so paddy straw comes in picture, and that makes the whole case quite interesting, because I'm very sure many of you must be hearing from India, especially from November till, let's say, even January, or even sometime mid of February, a lot of pollution level is getting increased, especially in Delhi area. And one of the reason is that farmers in Punjab especially, they are simply burning it, and they are also handicapped from a lot of aspects. We'll be talking about those challenges as well after this slide. But nevertheless, why paddy straw looks quite interesting. So in this slide, it's a reported data, although it's a couple of years old data. You can see the different states of India, and the residue generation, and the residue surplus, and the residue burn. So especially when you concentrate on serial number 10 and 13, you see a big opportunity there. In fact, this figure is in million ton. So this itself speaks volume. So a lot can be done from paddy straw. I'm also talking not only from the technical perspective, but also from the financial, from the entrepreneurship perspective, and definitely and socially we can model it. But one of the challenge which always remain is how to really streamline the whole supply chain. But in case of a straw, this can even be further streamlined, because if you really see the properties of, let's say, paddy straw, This can vary. I'm just giving you a glimpse of it. So paddy straw can definitely be a big thing when you talk from the organic carbon perspective. Of course, lignose, you have the lignin, you have then hemicellulose and cellulose. So you need to talk about the pre-treatment. But again, I'm not going in detail. But if you want, we can discuss about the technicalities of utilizing paddy straw through anaerobic route as well. That's not a problem. But nevertheless, what I really want to show you here, when you really see, let's say, properties of ash from rice straw, a lot of silica is there. We see a lot of other opportunities apart from the energy generation. This biosilica is really in demand. I don't know how many of you know, maybe your toothpaste is containing this biosilica. Lot of plastic material, they contain silica as such, and the this higher level plastic, they also use this biosilica. Nevertheless, if you talk about, let's say, K into it, potassium into it, it's again on higher side. So we can also think from the organic carbon point of view. Countries like India, they are deprived of organic carbon in their soil, and which is very important because the chemical fertilizer cannot really supplement that. Okay, challenges. Of course, when you talk about the collection of agriculture residue, huge volume of crop residues, collection and storage, because these are not the dense one. You need to really make it dense if you want. Time window between the harvesting and sowing of next crop is very, very less. This can be as less as 15 days. So this is one of the main reason why farmers normally tend to burn the crop, especially when you talk from the paddy perspective. Awareness, dissemination of technology, capacity building of technical manpower and those of farmers, cost-effective mechanization and availability of appropriate machineries, because these machineries are quite costly many times, and if you just need for the 15 days in a year, so everything goes for a toss. This is where the government intervention comes in picture. So we can think of something like Uber for such kind of machinery, perhaps. Utilization of crop residue and technology upgradation. In fact, we heard about mulching, etc., as far as the rice straw management is concerned. So basically, when you have the rice straw, and this all are happening in India right now from rice straw management perspective, but a lot can be done. So basically, you have infield option, you have outfield option. Of course, burning is not the right option. And one of the things which people normally don't talk about is that you'll have the crystalline silica when you burn rice straw, which is really, really harmful for health. Incorporation can be one thing, but when you talk about incorporation, the lignin part degrades very, very slowly, and many times when we really interviewed the farmers, etc., they are not very happy about it. But when you talk about the off-field option, let's talk about non-energy and energy. So definitely off-field option sounds good, but again, you need to understand that you have to really cut it, you have to really transport it, and it's not the dense one. You need to really think from that perspective if you are going for balers, and how do you really mobilize the whole thing on the ground in order to really make it happen. So when you talk about the non-energy thing, we can think about composting, carbonization. But one of the things which we nowadays see is this mushroom cultivation. That is quite interesting. But what we understood that, of course, you can utilize it for mushroom cultivation. But at the end, you are again left with a rice straw, a portion of rice straw. So it's not 100% utilized. So nevertheless, you still need to think about how to do it. Fodder, I'm not very sure, because it will hardly give any energetical value to the animal. But nevertheless, people are utilizing it as a as a supplement, you can say. Of course, you can go for MDA for some other brick making thing or something like this. But when you talk about the energy extraction from the rice straw, thermal combustion or gasification, definitely. But a lot of plants failed in India. And one of the main reasons in the past was this corrosive nature of the whole rice straw silica as such. So the design was an issue. Now that is getting improved. In fact, now pelletization of rice straw is becoming more and more popular. But above that, now people are in fact putting plants based on the rice straw through anaerobic route. There is right now only two big large scale plants, but it has got its own challenges. The small scales are already running. You can count on the finger, but that's how the technology is getting improved. But the good news is that Indian government has launched a scheme called Satat. I will be talking about those schemes, under which they are expecting 5,000 big or large biogas plant. When I say large, it's a 1 megawatt electrical equivalent or more biogas plant. And mainly, what we are really seeing, either it is based on the press mud, which is one of the byproduct in sugar factory, or paddy straw. So that's what is the status as such. I wanted to put this slide, but I don't think I have that much of time to really go through it. But what I really wanted to do or talk about over here, I just wanted to really, it's already a reported one, to show the role of different stakeholders, how they can play the role, and what are the bottlenecks right now in the existing market, and what are the things and bottleneck in the upcoming or not so streamlined market. But nevertheless, when you talk about the farmer or the producer or the trader or industries, all of them have got very unique role to play in case we really want to make this paddy straw as, as a base material for bioenergy to really take place. And we really need to ensure that all these things are in place. So you can go through this. Anyways, you'll be getting all this presentation. That's not a problem. So let me briefly touch about the interministerial policy, existing policy, because this is what makes the case interesting. Government of India is very much bullish about bioenergy and biogas in particular. The only challenge what we see many times is that there are a lot of interministerial policies which need to really go hand in hand. Of course, MNRE, Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, is the central coordinating ministry, which is a kind of umbrella a ministry for such kind of thing, and they are really keeping an eye on it, and they are pushing bioenergy like anything. And again, biogas is one of those. But when you talk about the different guiding policies, fertilizer control order. Now, fortunately, we have got the fertilizer, the specification for the slurry coming out of a biogas plant. We have got the BI standard, as I told you, for the Bio-CNG Bureau of Indian Standard. And we have SBM, Swachh Bharat Mission, that is cleanliness drive, which is happening in India. And under that also, a lot of such plants can be thought of when I talk about biogas plant. CRC, as far as the electricity policy is concerned, biofuel policy, I told you. Satat, as I was telling you, that government of India wants to have 5,000 large-scale biogas plant. That itself speaks volume. And in fact, in one of the article published by Indian Biogas Station, we try to really deep dive into it. And the solid waste management route. This is again pushing all the things in the right direction. That's something I wanted to put here. And last but not the least, Indian government is really pushing the thing in such a manner that market pulls it further on as far as the sector is concerned. So right from the small scale biogas plant or mid scale or even the larger scale, that is 1 megawatt electrical equivalent, you can see a lot of money being pumped from the government side. So if I talk about, let's say, large scale biogas plant, and I want to put 1 megawatt electrical equivalent of Bio-CNG, that is roughly around 4.8 tons of Bio-CNG production on per day basis. So I will be able to get or fetch around 4 crore of Indian rupees. So 1 crore of Indian rupees is roughly around 115,000 euros. So when you multiply it by 4 times, so it comes out to be around 460,000 euros, and that's something is quite quite motivating as far as the sector is concerned. And nevertheless, a lot of other benefits are being pushed in the market so that the people really go for it. We can keep talking about it, but as I told you at the beginning, India is going through a very nice transition phase where people can gain confidence as far as the bioenergy is concerned. I think that's it from my side, and thanks a lot for giving me the opportunity, and I am open for any question in case there is some. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gaurav. Very interesting also to see the complexities of developing policies needing to involve so many different ministries. But also thank you for highlighting that there are so many different benefits of using bioenergy that have to be kept in mind when we talk about using it. It's not just about energy, it's about many different things, many different benefits that bioenergy use can actually bring along. So as the time is already somewhat advanced, we'll just have a short poll and then continue with the next speaker. So Bharadwaj, please publish the poll. How large will be the share of upgraded biomass, pelletized, carbonized, gasified from agricultural residues compared to direct use in your country by 2050? Do you believe only a very small part, or a significant part, or all of the biomass coming from agricultural residues will be upgraded? That's the question. So how relevant is upgrading from your point of view? Is it going to be a minority program, or will most of the biomass coming from agriculture will be eventually upgraded to be more easily usable as a form of energy? Please select your choice and let's see what comes out of it. So Bharadwaj, what is the result? Okay, 20 to 40%. So most people believe that 20 to 40% will be actually converted. Second choice is not so much, so conversion will play less role, but there are also quite a few of you that believe that a great part, so 60 to 80% will actually be eventually be upgraded. So that's interesting. Thank you for this. And we'll continue now with our next speaker. Glaucia Mendes Souza is professor at the University of Sao Paulo, Brazil. Brazil is well known as probably the single country with the largest use of bioenergy in the world, I suppose. Glaucia, the floor is yours.
Let me share my slides here. Okay. Well, good morning from Brazil. I'm Glaucia Souza, full professor at the University of São Paulo and coordinator of FAPESP Bioenergy Research Program, BioN. It's a great pleasure to share some of our experience in policy and bioenergy. So the Brazilian energy matrix is largely renewable. No country with more than 60 million people has an energy matrix with more than 40% of renewables. So we are doing quite well on this regard. Our fuel matrix reached 50.2% all-time record in 2018. 2019 was 48.5, so we are averaging 50% in the latest years. The total energy matrix is 43% renewable. We have a lot of hydroelectricity as well. In 2020, there was an overall decrease of demand of 9.5% for ethanol for light vehicles due to COVID. But bioelectricity from bagasse increased by 4%. Our electricity matrix is 17% derived from sugarcane bagasse. All of this using not a lot of land, only 7% of our cultivated land was used. And an important result is the avoided emissions of CO2 that in 20 years amount to the planting of 4 billion trees. I'll talk now about our new legislation, RenovaBio, which went into full effect last year. RenovaBio is a market-driven incentive mechanism for pricing externalities. It rewards avoided emissions. It transforms the social environmental costs of using fossil fuels into revenue for producers of biofuels without subsidies, and most importantly, without deforestation. It uses RenovaCalc, a life cycle analysis calculator. It has been considered a great success of implementation and a very important and strategic step for biofuels in Brazil. All certified production must originate from land that was not deforested after December 26, 2017. Sugarcane and palm must comply with the Brazilian agroforestry zoning, and it is designed to meet a 10% carbon intensity reduction target for transport fuels, for the transport fuels matrix by 2028. So how does it work? Producers undergo certification of emissions reduction and are issued a GHG emissions reduction certificate that we call CBIOs. These are decarbonization credits. One CBIO corresponds to a reduction of 1 ton of carbon dioxide equivalent in comparison to fossil fuel emissions. And distributors have individual targets to purchase CBIOs, which producers sell in the stock exchange. Let me show you some numbers from last year. In 2020, 14 million CBIOs were sold. So 14 million tons of CO2 were avoided. 239 mills were certified, most of them producing ethanol through the first generation route. But we have a significant number of biodiesel producers also participated, and we also note integrated first generation with second generation mills and corn ethanol and one corn meal ethanol certified, corn ethanol mill certified. Well, the sugarcane sector is definitely more prominent as of now. So I'm gonna tell you a little bit more about the sugarcane sector. But first, let me explain. We have a lot of potential to grow with residues. As a result of this policy, the government plans to increase ethanol production from the current 30 billion liters to around 50 billion liters by 2030, and raise biodiesel from 4 billion to 13 billion liters in the same period. At the same time, it estimates a savings of 300 billion liters of imported gasoline and diesel in the coming years, and an increase of 10 million hectares is also projected in the planted area dedicated to bioenergy. And here I have to add that most of this expansion is taking place in pasture land that is not in use. So how are we doing? On the graph on the left here, we see an increase in 3.5% of production, 1.5% due to increases in productivity, and 1.9% due to cultivated area increases. But so we are increasing a bit of land use, but we increased a lot of efficiency as well. And on the right here, I'm showing a stark change that is observed over the years of how much products you may make from the same area. If you look at the green and gray lines, you see that stock production and area used have plateaued, but products have increased. We are increasing production of electricity, increasing production of sugar, ethanol, and other goods. I think most of this increase is due to bioelectricity that has increased considerably over the last years. From Biogas, this is cogeneration using Biogas, and expectation with RenovaBio is that we're going to meet a lot of our residential electricity demand if we add straw. So using the current Biogas system, we are meeting 25% of our residential electricity demand. But if we add 50% of straw, this is already happening, collection of straw left over in the field, part of it. If we add 50% of straw, we could increase to 72. And with the stimulus from RenovaBio, we could get to almost 99% of our residential electricity demand. So there is a lot of potential now to use more of our residues. And next, I want to talk a little bit about biogas. While biogas and straw are possible feedstocks of value for biogas production, I also want to stress that we have a very large potential to use animal waste for the production of biogas. Remember, Brazil is a large producer of animal products. The bioelectricity potential of biogas, again, it's most prominent in the sugarcane sector, but look here, we have a lot of potential also from other residues from the agribusiness. And we have a new legislation in place that is demanding improved efficiency and performance, a more competitive scenario now for sanitation. So we are seeing a lot of interest to treat our landfills and our urban waste properly. So if we consider urban solid waste, we can go either way. We can biodigest, or we can capture the gases from the landfills. The potential is equal for both of them. And I want to stress here that it's very important to do so. We have increased our waste per capita immensely over the last decade in 30 kilos per person, so over a year. So we have to take care of this. Now the government is getting prepared. We are doing lots of partnerships in this area for research. So to summarize, a lot of this RenovaBio activities is taking place in the state of São Paulo. Most of the certified mills are in São Paulo. We are saying São Paulo could be negative emissions with it's a strong agricultural state with lots of technologies, lots of tech parks, and lots of funding for research over the years in this state. Electricity, we have been having this debate over electric cars, but biofuels are winning here. It is more competitive than any other configuration. We have commercially available already hybrids that run on ethanol. We have research. Soon we're going to have onboard conversion of ethanol to hydrogen in cars, and the emissions are very low with that. So with our amount of ethanol, we think ethanol will be still very useful for the coming years. So to meet this demand, our FAPESP Bioenergy Research Program, BioM, last month launched the plans for the next decade. We want to increase biomass yields, develop efficient and competitive conversion platforms, improve energy efficiency of end use, and accelerate the transition to a bioeconomy. In the last decade, we funded $200 million of research in the state of São Paulo, and we are trying to stimulate now more companies to join the program. We have 188 startups, and this is growing every week. So I leave you my web address here. You can find more information about the program there. And thank you very much for the opportunity to share.
Thank you so much, Klausia. That was very, very impressive, I must say. Both the scale and also the professional level at which bioenergy is being developed by Brazil. And I guess that is something that we can, that has also a potential that could expand to other continents. Are there connections between the Brazilian bioenergy experts and, for example, Africa, where most of the bagasse isn't even used, but thrown away?
Yes, so we have conducted a global assessment of bioenergy sustainability with 81 institutions from 31 countries. And we had one particular assessment on Latin America and Africa potential. This is published, we have a policy brief on LACAF countries. And just last week, we have an article out by Kerubin and colleagues. I can share the link on the chat that analyze the potential of using 1% of pasture in 20 countries in Latin America and Africa, how much we could achieve. So I'm going to add the link, it's open access, but we have huge potential to expand bioenergy sustainably in Latin America and Africa, and it is increasing. So it is something that is already happening.
That's very good news, Klausia. That's very good news. There has been a couple of questions actually here I would like to bring to you. One was, there is a lot of interest in importing bagasse pellets for power generation. Do you see that happening? Yes. Is that going to?
Yes, we have companies that are exporting to Europe mainly. They are pelletizing bagasse for heat. So yes, so this is already happening. And
there has been also a question that bio-based businesses in Europe are importing lots of sugarcane from Brazil to produce plastic substitutes. Is that also something that you notice?
Yes, we have from ethanol a route that is 100% certified as green PE, polyethylene, from Braskem. So this is 100% renewable plastic, and it's being used on everything. So we have shoe soles, we have toys, I see PET bottles. There is a lot of products. If you go and you look and you say, yes, it's green seal, it is from sugarcane ethanol. And they also recently started monoethylene production as well. And so this is also an area of great interest, and many companies are looking for solutions to substitute plastic. And you can also carbon store in plastic. So it's an option as well for carbon storage.
Great. Great. Thank you very much, Klausia. And we'll proceed now with the last poll. So, Bharadwaj, please bring up the last poll to our participants. Which single government action would be effective to promote the use of agricultural residues for energy? Disseminate know-how and successful technical and organizational approaches. focus on the promotion of electricity production, focus on small and medium scale use for heating and cooking, formulate national action plan to expand the use of agro-residues, provide investment support for equipment, or increase the taxation of fossil fuels. So which of these government actions do you believe would be most effective in promoting the use of bioenergy? Okay, Bharadwaj, do we have the results? Formulate a national action plan to expand the use of agro-residues is the preferred answer. So I guess that makes a lot of sense, because it points out that not one single policy is able to really make a difference. It will need a complex set of policies, as also highlighted by Gaurav in India, who showed us how many ministries must really coordinate to make this happen. And of course, that's a major barrier, because ministries frequently don't like to cooperate too much. They are in competition. Thank you very much for this. And we are continuing now to our last speaker, Georgi Geletuka. He is from the Bioenergy Association of Ukraine. And the Ukraine has had a hugely successful and amazingly engaged program to increase the use of bioenergy. And Georgi has been the driving force behind this. So thank you, Georgi, for being with us and sharing your experiences. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Christian, for introduction, and hello to everybody. I'm here as a participant of Agro-Bioheat project, and also as a member of World Bioenergy Association. And the dynamic of bioenergy development in Ukraine is quite positive. You hear statistics from 2010 till 2019. And the figure is below figures is energy supply from biofuels. And you see in 2010 it was less than 1 million ton of oil equivalent per year, and last year it was 3.3 million ton of oil equivalent per year. That average annual growth rate for bioenergy in Ukraine is 16%. Our estimation of energy potential of biomass in Ukraine is on the table, and totally is about 23 million ton of oil equivalent. And the biggest share here, you see this part is different kind of agro residues, and we calculate as a potential for energy 30% of available straw and 40% of available other byproducts, like corn stalks, like sunflower stalks, and so on. And the second big share of our potential is here, it's energy crops. In Ukraine, we have about 4 million hectares of unused agricultural land. And here is scenarios where we will use half of this land, then 2 million hectares will be used for energy crops. Then last year, our association specifically interested by corn residues, because corn is more and more growing. Amount of corn is more and more growing in Ukraine. Last figures is 35 million ton, and you see it's more or less permanently grows. And the productivity of corn is also quite high, growing, and will grow nearest years. And as a result, corn is one biggest byproduct which we have at the moment. And here we develop bioenergy road map for till 2050 in Ukraine. And if you see current figures like this, more than 80% at the moment is a woody biomass. It's what we have now, and 20% agro biomass. And from this agro biomass, the most used is sunflower husk. It's a specific product which we have in Ukraine. Ukraine is #1 in the world in sunflower oil production. And this sunflower husk is byproduct of this process. But in 2050, you see our woody reserves or potential is quite limited. This is the maximum what we can have from woody biomass. And more than 80%, we are thinking about different kind of agro biomass. And at the moment, we are near 4 million tons of oil equivalent, and in 2050, we are thinking about 20 million tons of oil equivalent. And this is also from this roadmap. This is say this 20 million tons of oil equivalent, but translated to how many megawatt of thermal. It's about 50,000 megawatt thermal capacity. This is megawatt electrical, more than 5,000 megawatt electrical. This is replacement of natural gas. This is replacement of petroleum and diesel. This is saving of CO2. This is needed investment and new jobs, more than 160,000 new jobs in the sector. This is typical payback periods for different kind of projects using agro biomass. We indicated here collecting, baling, and sale of bales as a product. It's quite profitable. Production and sales of agro pellets inside Ukraine, also quite good. Boiler on the straw bales, CHP, boiler on the corn stalks, CHP on the corn stalks, thermal plants on the and different ones. Most of these projects are feasible in Ukrainian conditions. Also, why we are thinking about corn last years? Because if we compare corn stalks with straw, with sunflower and with wood chips, one difference we see here in the ash melting point. For corn, ash melting point higher than for straw, practically 200 degrees Celsius higher, and it is more or less the same as for wood fuels. Then it means that to combust corn stalks, it's much easier than to combust straw. We can use boilers for wood for combustion of corn without big problems. Also, we see comparably less sulfur and chlorine content in the corn. Then we are thinking it's a quite promising fuel for future. Also, one idea which we are thinking at the moment, biomethane production. And we're thinking about production not only from traditional product like manure plus silage, but also using straw and corn stalks as a raw material for biogas. And our idea is that we can produce quite a big amount of biomethane our calculation up to 8 billion cubic meters of biomethane per year Ukraine can produce. And typically it's like 55% of methane plus 40% of CO2 in the biomethane. And our idea is that we can use this CO2 for reaction with hydrogen, which potentially can be produced from solar and wind by hydrolysis, by electrolysis of water. And we can use this hydrogen plus CO2 and receive additional methane, synthetic methane, and we can push this synthetic methane plus biomethane to the gas system and use it inside Ukraine and also for export. EU announced quite ambitious plans on the renewable gases, and we hear mostly about hydrogen, but we see also big advantages for this combination of hydrogen with biomethane and using biomethane as renewable gases for transportation on the big distances. And also I include in the presentation some examples how we use agrobiomass in Ukraine at the moment. We have about 100 units of such periodical combustion boilers in Ukraine, capacity from 150 till 1 megawatt for combustion of straw bales. We also have similar design, but not as a boiler, but as a heat generators for elevators, for drying of grain. Also more than 100 similar units like this. This is our biggest power station on sunflower husk, 16 megawatt electrical, started operation last year and quite successfully operating. And it's a Ukrainian boiler plus Siemens turbine. And also example of production of briquettes from agro residues. Here is Ukrainian producer of briquettes, and they produce more than 600 similar units generally, and about 200 implemented in Ukraine. And we also have export in Romania and other countries. And some examples of biogas. This is one of the quite successful biogas project, 5.7 megawatt electrical on the chicken farm in Ukraine. It's operated from 2013 quite successfully. And the raw material is chicken manure plus some organic, mostly it's silage or straw. They use straw already. And it's one of the biggest biogas plant at the moment in Ukraine. First stage 12 megawatt electrical, it is in operation already from 2018, and second stage will be equal. Here they use 90% is chicken manure plus about 10% of straw. They use straw also for raw material. And supporting mechanisms which we have for bioenergy development in Ukraine. This is feed-in tariff for electricity. It's not too big, 12.3 euro cents per kilowatt hour without value-added tax for biomass and biogas. Also, we are waiting auctions. They should be started this year. Auctions and they will replace more earlier or later this feed-in tariff system. And we have a simplified system for establishment of tariff for heat from biomass. And the principle that this tariff is 90% of tariff for the heat from the natural gas. And it's also quite successfully working from 2017. That's all in my presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Georgi. It's really impressive what you have been achieving in the Ukraine in a situation that hasn't been easy anyways, to expand bioenergy use so rapidly. And I understand, of course, that that had a strategic also importance for your country to become more independent of gas deliveries from Russia. So it's an excellent example of how fast actually bioenergy use can be expanded. I also found it particularly interesting to see into the future and to also consider to produce green methane by combining the CO2 as a carbon source from the biogas with hydrogen. So very interesting concepts and amazing work that you're doing in the Ukraine. I think we're coming, or we have even exceeded slightly our time. So I would like to thank you all for participating and give the floor to our executive, Bharadwaj Kumamuro, to say a few final words before we conclude this webinar. Bharadwaj.
Perfect. Thank you, Christian, and thank you to the speakers as well. As he highlighted, my name is Bharadwaj Kumamuru. I'm the Executive Director of WBA. I won't take up much time. I just wanted to highlight a couple of points. Number one, that we had, as Christian mentioned, a previous webinar on agricultural residues in December, which looked at latest technological developments. We had, I think, more than 220 registrations from 60 countries. As you can see, of course, half of them are from Europe, but we also had registrants from rest of the world as well. So thank you all for joining in. The second webinar, which is right now, looked at national experiences on policies and regulations related to feedstock. And I would like to thank AgroBioHeat for their work in helping co-organize this session. And as you can see, we had more than 100 new registrations compared to the previous webinar. And as highlighted, the video and the presentations will be available on the WBA website. But all the registrants, we will get an email soon from us with more information. We also plan to have more webinars, not just in this particular series, but also on other topics relevant to bioenergy. So please get in touch with us and let us know if there's something you would like to know more and want us to do a webinar about. And quickly, the WBA, the World Bioenergy Association, we are a global organization with a mission to promote the sustainable development of bioenergy. We've got members from all over the world, as you can see on the map, from almost all continents, more than 65 countries, and these include associations, technology companies, equipment manufacturers, and so on. So a big thank you to all the members who are part of WBA, and who are also some of them on this panel as well, and on the session. In terms of activities, we publish various fact sheets on statistics reports, policy papers. In terms of events, not just this webinar, but in better times, pre-pandemic times, we were able to publish, organize conferences and study trips as well. And we are also proud of our international cooperation with other international agencies. More information is available on our homepage, worldbioenergy.org. And I request all of you who are on this session, thank you again. And we hope that you join the global bioenergy community. And thank you so much. And